This episode is brought to you by PS Kitchen, located at 246 West 48th Street, right in between Times Square and Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan. PS Kitchen is dishing out sophisticated fare using fresh ingredients. I love their PS Burger. It tastes so good, and their fries are really good too. It's worth every dollar. PS has signature cocktails, a late-night menu, and a full event space upstairs, which I actually get to record some of these podcast episodes in. So check it out, ps-kitchen.com. They also serve brunch, which is as good as dinner, I imagine. I haven't had it yet, but I'm going to have to check it out real soon. And if all of this doesn't sound amazing enough already, they're open for lunch, brunch, and dinner until 11 p.m. Sunday to Wednesday and until 2 a.m. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It's plant-based, and all profits go to charity. And the owners are really nice, too. So check them out, ps-kitchen.com.
Good morning, Vietnam!
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
To infinity and beyond!
Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?
It's classified.
You talking to me?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
I can't lie!
Expecto Patronum!
Entertainment X.
You never know what you're gonna get.
This is a fun episode. I sit down with Jane Jourdan, creator of Fit For Broadway. We talk about her path leading all the way up to full-on entrepreneurship of the company. And we also discuss so many tactical and actionable pieces of information towards the end of the episode. She tells us about her daily routine, how she keeps herself centered. It's really, really great. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode and keep on keeping on. We are back, and today with me is Jane Jourdan. Jane, thank you for coming on this show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're going to talk about Fit For Broadway. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. I want to begin with this quote that I heard. I think I heard you say, "You are enough. You are so enough. It's unbelievable how enough you are." I love that. We spend so much of our life trying to maybe be someone we're not, and you just don't realize that who you are is enough. What does that mean to you? Part one. Part two, how has that affected how you go through life?
Yeah. So at face value, that quote means that you possess all of the answers within you, which I think is something that we struggle with when we're starting out on your journey of where you want to find your passion. And I think it's hard to feel like what you have to offer is enough. And so I think it's bottom line, you have all the answers within you. The deeper meaning for me of that quote actually is about support, because the first time that I heard that quote was from Sierra Boggess. So credit where credit is due. She is the first time that I heard that quote. And I believe the story goes that her voice teacher, I believe, told her that in a master class. And she sort of lived by that. And that was something that I found, I must have been in undergrad when I found that quote and from her. And I think it just offered me such comfort of and allowance to be whoever I wanted to be, and for that to be okay. And it was just very comforting. But since then, that quote has really signified support, because that quote was something that I latched onto and gratefully has become kind of a quote that's linked with Fit For Broadway a little bit now. And, we have a shirt that says that on it. And but for me, the deeper meaning of that has always been the support that Sierra has given me, in the sense that she put out this message that I resonated with. And I took that and ran with it and embodied what that meant. And then she's supported me ever since in a lot of different ways. And so, when I hear that quote, I think of her, and I think of the support that she's given me. And it reminds me that I want to be that support for people, that she heard me and she saw me in a way that made me feel great. She really recognized the work that I was doing early on with Fit for Broadway and believed in it, and that was really meaningful for me in the moment that that happened and that we were able to collide. And I think it's just the reminder that to be seen and heard where you're at, which again plays into the theme of what that quote actually means, which is that you're enough and exactly where you are, and that to be seen and heard for that is enough and is good.
That's incredible. I love that you're spreading that message, because I think particularly maybe in the arts, people can forget that.
Mm-hmm.
You can forget your self-worth sometimes in anything, really in any profession. It really isn't just the arts. So I absolutely love that. Now with Fit for Broadway, we were discussing this before we started recording, that you were at a loss for information on people's struggles through their what would all appear to be golden, glorious, gleaming, pristine careers. Through your research and what you found out about different performers at the top of their game, so to speak, what have you learned about your own path? Or are there any themes that kind of come up in your mind as you've discovered people's struggles?
Yeah, I think figuring out consistent practices that help you feel grounded and help you feel centered. That looks very differently to everyone that I've interviewed and to myself and to the circle around me. It can be anything from that physical workout to therapy to a relationship to travel. And so I think finding that thing that centers you is really been a helpful lesson to learn, and then has also been the consistent thing that has shown up in every interview. It's nothing that we do is random. We're making decisions every day, and those decisions are shaping us, not just physically. You go to the gym to physically shape your bicep, but you're also making these other decisions in life with your relationships, with the things that you're regularly engaging in, with the kind of work that you choose to do, with how you spend your free time, what your hobbies are. And all of those things are shaping you every day. And so I think being conscious of the decisions that you're making and letting those things help you get deeper into the root of who you are, so that you have something unique to offer the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's the people that I've come across who stick out in my mind the most are the people who I feel like are really living into that truth of really the practices that they have are deepening them into this really unique version of themselves. Not version, their uniqueness, I should say.
Yeah, who they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, I find that too. As you meet people who are more established in any field, they're so, and I mentioned this to Andrea Burns the other day, they're so secure in who they are, which is so easy yet so difficult.
Yeah.
And it comes down to so much, like the way they dress, the way they behave, the way they speak, all of it. Like you just look at them, you're like, oh my God, you look like you belong in Madame Tussauds. You see, because you're so put together.
Yeah.
In such an authentic themself way.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything else to say about that. Okay, so let's rewind back a little bit.
Okay.
You grew up in New Mexico. Fact check me, because all this stuff's from the internet. We know how the internet is.
Yes.
Can be a little wonky with info. I want to know, what were your childhood dreams growing up in New Mexico?
I think I was always just really curious from a young age. I mean, childhood dream is I definitely latched on to Phantom of the Opera super young, and that was something that I thought just opened up my heart in a way that I had never experienced. And I saw that show, I must have been 10 maybe, or 10 or 11, and I just remember really being, again, so opened up by that show. And so I think childhood dreams, I mean, to connect more with that feeling, whatever that meant. And so I think I've found that feeling in travel, and I found that feeling in like exploration and in relationships. And but yeah, I guess the short answer and would be, Phantom was definitely a childhood dream. Exploring the world was a childhood dream. Yeah.
What do you think Phantom can teach an average audience member about love?
That I think that love looks different for everyone. And I think, I think the very innocent sort of lesson in that is loving someone despite their flaws, right? So, and I think that, the understanding of that as an adult is obviously very different than how I interpreted that when I was young watching Phantom as an 11-year-old. But yeah, I think loving people despite their flaws and a deep sense of curiosity, like that is, Christine's character is just built around a deep curiosity for knowing herself and knowing this other world that's like a little bit dark. And I think it speaks into sort of like the shadow side of all of us, and like that, knowing that part of yourself is just as valuable as knowing the light part of yourself. So yeah, that's kind of what it represents for me. And I think what, on a innocent level saw when I was younger, and then, have grown to understand it through life experience.
Yeah. I love the word you keep using, curiosity, because the more curious you are, I think it can open you up to so much more in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that you were born with that? Or do you remember like becoming particularly curious at a certain age?
I think I was always really curious. I mean, I grew up in a very small town, so super sheltered. I grew up in a very conservative Catholic family. And I think but in that same, I grew up in this conservative Catholic family, but my parents also allowed me the space to sort of explore. And, they wanted us to venture out and go to college somewhere far, and they wanted us to travel, and they gave us the opportunities to do those things. And I'm super grateful that, they were able to. And, I think that support of feeling like I could explore and be curious was, always something that now looking back, I really value, that, they created that safe space, but didn't hold me in a bubble. And yeah, I think I've always been super curious, probably more curious than I should be sometimes. Not in that way. I'm still at heart very much a conservative, sort of like.
Let's clarify that. We gotta clarify that real quick.
No, but I think let's clarify in saying that I have a curiosity for understanding why people do the things that they do. And, I have never, ever done drugs, ever. But like, there's a curiosity to understanding like why someone would want to do that. And I go into more of the side of like the mental side. Like, why would someone want to do that? Like what emotionally and mentally is going on that they'd want to do that? And I think I just have a curiosity for like understanding people and the decisions that they make. I don't necessarily have to experiment with everything.
Yeah,
but it's like a curiosity to like know people's story. And I think we'll circle back to Fit For Broadway, is like a deep curiosity for understanding people's story. And with what you're explaining, with what you're doing, is wanting to understand why people do the things that they do.
Yeah, because I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of people do what they do for very basic reasons. We all operate from similar human needs, like the 6 human needs. It's all very basic, not to call a human a basic thing, basic being, but it's true. We all operate the same way. There's really nothing. We complicate it. We make things difficult. Yeah. Because we're incredible like that. Yeah. But it really is very simple, whatever that situation one may be going through. That's so, I love that. Okay. So your parents, what did they, okay, well, I'm going to preface this question with, as Fit For Broadway, you are the founder, CEO, girl boss, everything of this company. You need to have a good work ethic, I imagine, in order to run a company. I don't know, I'm guessing. What did your parents teach you about work ethic, or where did you learn your work ethic, or standout moments in time over work ethic?
I'll address the question of my parents first, which is that I don't know if I learned as much about work ethic as much as I learned about the care for people from my parents. My parents have a deep, deep pulse and awareness of people. And I think that I feel like I've carried that with me, and I continue to carry that with me, and an understanding that nothing can come at the expense of another person, and that the value of another person is always above anything. And I'm super grateful I was raised in a home that, there was no prejudice, and I feel like my parents, instilled those values in us from super young. And so, to see and hear people in the deepest of ways is, I think, the greatest lesson I gained from them. I think that I learned like a work ethic in a very, in the basic sense, when I was in undergrad. I think that I was not a type A person growing up. I think I was a little bit all over the place, and I didn't have a great work ethic in high school and in college. And I think in college I finally got to this place where I thought I can teach myself how to create these habits that are going to be helpful for me. And I think it was the first time that I experimented with sort of like putting putting practices in place that turn into habits. And so I think, and I'm again back to like being a curious person. I think I just realized that so long as I wanted to learn, the resources were there. So whether that was like I was just bouncing around YouTube learning how to do XYZ, or whether that was reading a book, or seeking out counseling from someone about certain things. I don't know if there was one person as much as it was just sort of like a constant grabbing for information that would help me understand how to shape my life in a way that was productive consistently.
Yeah. And so the curiosity and that searching for those answers and really, cultivating that work ethic.
Yeah.
Did it come to a head on that plane ride in 2014 where you were ferociously sketching out Fit for Broadway? Was that, or had you previously? I want to hear about all of that. You can give the long story.
Yeah. Okay. So, I graduated with an undergraduate degree in vocal performance, and I wasn't sure. I had studied opera all throughout my 4 years, and I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go to graduate school for opera and continue studying classical voice, or whether I wanted to possibly go into musical theater or do something different altogether. So I wasn't really sure about that. I moved to New Orleans to live with my sister and her husband, and sort of took that year to figure out my life. And during that time, that was sort of when blogs were booming. And I thought they were super fun. I loved following blogs. I loved the content that was being put out. I loved seeing different people's style and these different voices that were sort of talking about different themes. And when I was in New Orleans, I wanted to start a blog that was called A Singer's Guide to Wellness, because I loved, I was always super health and fitness conscious, and I always also understood how it affected performing for me. And I used these things from very young to help singing and performing, and felt like the stronger I felt mentally, physically, emotionally, the better I was able to perform, and the easier it was to sing. And so, I wanted to create a blog called The Singer's Guide to Wellness. I bought the domain and everything.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. It was originally had a style component, which is hilarious because, like, anyone would tell you who's close to me, like, style is not my thing. Yeah. Like, someone else can dress me all day long. But I remember I had my sister, like, taking pictures of me in these, like, terrible outfits I was putting together.
What were you wearing?
Who knows?
Okay.
Like, I have this distinct memory of this like gingham shirt and like some crop pants, and like it was in the alley behind my sister's store, and too funny. So had this idea for this blog. I remember being like, when I would think about it, I remember just getting like full body chills and just feeling like this is such a cool idea, and I feel so stimulated by this, and it's so great. But I was still at the time I was on track to be going to graduate school. So I was submitting all my forms. I was planning auditions, and I started auditioning, and I auditioned at the Boston Conservatory and Manhattan School of Music. And I think that was, throughout that auditioning process, I sort of realized quickly that was not the place where I was feeling like I needed to be. I was just getting like, I was like, I don't feel in alignment with this. I don't want to be in school anymore. But when I came to audition for Manhattan School of Music, I really resonated with New York. I was like, I don't want to be in school, but I know that I feel good here. And when I was living in New Orleans, I had started studying with a new voice teacher who kind of started rerouting me back to musical theater. And she was like, you need to be singing musical theater, not just classical stuff. And I was like, yeah, well, that's what I sang growing up. And so it felt like home. And so I was completely on track to do graduate school, and then made the decision not to, and then moved to New York, started sort of creating my own curriculum around what I missed getting a classical degree. So I started, acting coaching and started going to every dance class I could go to, and started studying with a new voice teacher here who definitely like reinforced going musical theater and like taught me how to belt and like all these things that I never knew how to do. Yeah. And it was in that time that I was really lacking a sense of community here. And I also found my sense of community in fitness classes. Like that's where I was going to I was seeing people regularly, and I was like, really inspired by the instructors, and started seeing that overlap again of sort of like how health and fitness play into performing. And so that sort of, those themes were like reoccurring again. The idea of a blog sort of started to ruminate again. And I was on this plane ride back from Los Angeles, and I thought of the name Fit For Broadway and started conceptualizing kind of what would exist within a blog. And the features weren't initially a focus. That happened by chance, and then changed the direction of everything. Originally I was like, I'll put up recipes, I'll put up fitness tips, originally I was like, I'll create a personal blog. And Fit For Broadway was because at that point that was the new goal. Like musical theater and Broadway were the new goal, and fitness and health were the components of support that helped me live that in New York. And so then I was doing a workshop with a woman by the name of Christine Bendel, and she's Broadway veteran. She's been in everything. She's incredible. And she is a yogi, and she meditates, and she's vegan, and just like a very interesting picture of kind of all of these like health and wellness and fitness ideas. And I asked her if I could interview her for what at the time was like one recipe on this blog called Fit For Broadway. And I was like, can I interview you for this thing that I'm doing? And she was like, sure. And so I sat down and just basically started asking her all the questions that I wanted to know before moving to New York, which was like, how are you doing what you're doing? And like, I don't really care about what you're doing on stage. I kind of just want to know about your life.
Off stage.
Yeah. I just want to know about your life. And like, you're a yogi. Like, that's awesome. I love yoga. And like, you're a vegan. Like, does that help with your skin? Like, I remember asking her questions about like, if like being vegan helped her skin. Cause like I had bad skin at the time, and like silly things like that I just like wanted to get to know her and know about health and wellness from her. And I think it was in that moment and in that interview that I realized like how much information I didn't know, and that interviewing her was such an incredible experience, and I gained so much knowledge from that surely other people would also gain the same knowledge from if I shared that. And from there, the features became sort of the driving force of what Fit For Broadway was. And then it became very community based and wasn't a personal blog at all. It was very community oriented, and I'm super grateful for that. And now that's, one of our core values is community and how you build community.
So was that organic, getting the community together? Like when you created it, was this like just for you, or were you like, I hope people follow it? Or was there any kind of like, how am I going to get this out to people? Or you just created it and they came?
I had no intention with like it growing, because at the time I was creating it, but I also wanted to be on Broadway, and I didn't really think those things could exist together. And so I was like, I'm just going to do this blog, which is kind of fun. And it's helping me gain the knowledge that I think I need to know to move forward with this goal and with this dream. And then it sort of snowballed. And about 1.5 years into it, I suddenly realized that I had discovered my voice in a different way. Yeah. And I also felt like it was a more authentic version of my voice, at least in that time. That and so a year and a half in, I stopped auditioning and completely transitioned to doing the blog full time. And yeah, I think I had no idea it would grow this big.
Funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how life happens
Yeah.
for you.
Totally. And I always say that. I'm like, there were so many auditions that I came home for and cried because like it was everything that I wanted. And, you know, had that dream role been given to me, like I think it would have, you know, been everything in that time. But now looking back on it, I'm so grateful that, you know, all the things that I thought were no's were just rerouting me to what was my best path. So yeah, does that answer?
That does, very much so. I appreciate you for sharing.
That was the long-winded
it.
version.
That's fine. Have a sip. Yeah. So you said back at the beginning of that, A Singer's Guide to Wellness, you had full body chills. Mm-hmm. I think that's really important to discuss for a second.
Yeah. I still get full body chills, both when I'm feeling in my most threatened and when I'm feeling in my most alignment. So like I always know full body chills are either like
the end is near.
The end is near, or like
a beautiful
I'm
beginning.
in the sweetest spot, the best spot.
Do you ever get it confused?
Oh, all the time.
Really?
I mean, not all the time. I will say I've been testing my intuition lately because I feel like sometimes I don't listen to it, and it's always looking back on it. I think I knew this. The answer was there. I totally knew this and I didn't listen. But I guess in the moment when I'm having the chills, it's clear. It's like fight or flight, or, you know, you're in the divine.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. What do you have, like tests that you're doing, like particular tests? Because you said you're testing your intuition. Are there like little things where you're like, oh, I know I shouldn't do that, but I'm going to do it anyway? Like little like safe risks? I don't know how to articulate that.
Ooh, yeah. Safe risks, I think, are doing things that you feel challenged by, but that are ultimately not going to harm you, right? So,
which is incredible.
Like
That's
things
incredible
like I have a really hard time with leadership. I think I'm a good leader, but it's really challenging for me. Oh. But I think moving towards that sort of discomfort is a positive thing. Whereas then I think there are just situations and people and things where I think I did have that feeling about that person and I should have just listened to that. But instead I whatever it may be. And that's completely business. You know, personal, I'm pretty good in that way. But like, I think it's been harder for me to understand from a business standpoint, like kind of
who might
navigating that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess some people get pretty good at hiding it too. That's a separate episode.
Yeah.
What we do for survival.
We'll go into the tactics of surviving
through the business world.
New York.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
That would be interesting.
That'd be a really interesting article.
Yeah.
Okay. So with this universe, listening to the universe,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like more or less you followed it. Did you ever push back against it? Like, were there times when something came up with Fit for Broadway or Singer's Guide to Wellness where you were like, why do you laugh every time I say that?
We don't have to call it that anymore.
Okay.
that can
Never
live
mind.
in peace
Okay.
somewhere else.
Okay, we're going to leave that. Okay, I won't say it again. But for Fit for Broadway, where there was like, you were kind of pushing against it, you're like, no, I shouldn't, undeserving of this idea, or I should leave this alone to someone else. I should stay in my place. Did you ever have those thoughts?
I don't think so. No, Fit for Broadway always felt like I always felt in alignment with it. It was interesting because when I was auditioning, you know, I was hitting a lot of closed doors, and you know, as much as I could, I was trying to have grace with those answers and say, okay, well, where's that redirecting me? Or like, why am I getting no's? Or, you know, what's that happening? Or where is the universe redirecting me? And I think when I started Fit for Broadway, it was like, I would knock on any door and it opened. And I think I ultimately it happened at such extremes that I couldn't not listen to that. Like, it was like I was very clearly being told, go this way.
Yeah.
And so I think and the opportunities came that allowed me to keep traveling that path. You know, had they not, I'm sure I would have questioned it and been a little confused. But, you know, part of that was just sort of tuning in and saying, like, do I feel aligned with this? Like, do I feel like my best self in this work? And I did. So, you know, I kind of just let it lead me.
What advice would you give someone on following the universe? Or following the signs?
Get quiet.
Okay.
Be quiet with yourself.
Shut up.
Well, I mean, we'll go back to the beginning, but of like every answer is within you. And
Wait, hold on. Say that again.
Every answer is within you.
That is so true.
I think, I mean, I'm going to have to credit someone too with that, because I feel like Ariana DeBose said that. We had a podcast season last year, and I think she said something to that effect of why she meditates. She said, I mean, I think I can almost verbatim quote it, but I think she said, every answer, you have every answer. So I'll not try and quote it, but it was just the idea that it's like meditation. She meditates because she has all the answers within her. She just has to get quiet enough to hear them. So I think I've always like really attached to that idea, and I think it's even harder now because I think I feel this pressure to continue momentum when, you know, sometimes I could use a week of just like being quiet and like detaching, and I don't always listen to that, and I always, you know, have to deal with the repercussions of not doing that, and that, you know, taking that time away would actually really serve me, and serve whatever project I'm doing and whoever I'm helping, you know, through that project or whatever it may be. So yeah, I think the greatest advice I could give is just get quiet with yourself.
I love that, because all of the answers are within you. They really are. It's really so much more simple than you think. And I had heard this. I swear I need to remember her name, and I keep forgetting it. She's like the CEO of marketing for like Uber and Beats. She worked for Beats. Yes. Badass Boz is her Instagram name. She's like Bosma St. James, St. John's.
Yes.
I'm saying it wrong. I'm sorry. She says this making pros and cons lists. You're either talking yourself into a bad idea or out of a good idea.
Interesting.
Because the spirit always knows. You just have to convince the mind.
That's so good.
That is what you just said.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's
I need to hear where that's from. I need to hear the whole version of that.
Yeah, it's actually,
is it a podcast?
It's funny. The Tim Ferriss show.
Okay, amazing.
He interviewed her.
Great.
Pretty recently. It's really great.
Go listen, you guys.
Yeah, for real. That's where I get like all my ideas. Well, people who know the Tim Ferriss show will know my questions at the end here. Well, if you go listen to it, you'll be like, oh, he ripped all of these from Timothy Ferriss. Thanks,
That's
Tim.
hilarious.
So you can't copyright questions, can you?
I don't think so.
Maybe. Hopefully not. Okay. So, all right. So I want to talk about being an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Because
let's talk about it.
So let's get down to business. What are some of the most challenging aspects?
Being an entrepreneur, making money, for sure.
Yeah.
I think in the next few years, I will probably go to investors, but I haven't thus far. So self-funding a project that you want to keep growing is challenging, and yeah, I mean, there's been times where it's thankfully done really well, and then there's other times where it looks like it's doing really, really well, and I'm not making any money from it. And so I think, yeah, it's really tough to keep that going. And then I think just constantly being aware of why you're doing it. I think I went through this a little bit before the beginning of this year and even into this year of just thinking, I feel like it needs to go into a different phase, or I feel like it needs to shift in some way, and I can't really understand where that is yet, and feeling like attached to what it is in the moment and then not realizing where it needs to go. having all the answers.
Because you're the one.
Because you're the one making decisions, and it feels like the weight of the world, but then like when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's a drop in the bucket. And so I think it's just like that constant sort of feeling.
Yeah, because you always have to be like 2 steps ahead, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves ahead on like what, almost assuming what'll work, what'll be a surefire hit and what'll fail.
Totally.
Because you want to have those good hits. Has it gotten easier?
No, it's gotten harder.
It gets harder.
Because I think in the beginning I was, what we've been talking about, I was totally just like floating and being guided. Like I wasn't building it for any reason, but that it was a space for me to express and connect. And it was a space for me to connect with people who shared the same values as I did and who were interested in the same topics as I was. And then to find my own voice in a new way. And so I think with those being the motivation, those things motivating what direction I was going, it was really easy to just kind of bop along. And also I had this other goal of doing this other thing, which was holding all the anxious weight of, whereas then like now that it's my full time and has all my attention, I put a lot of the anxiety onto it. So yeah, does that make sense?
It does.
Like, it's like when people are performing for pleasure rather than like making it their career, it's like sometimes it might be more fulfilling to do it just for fun and as a fun outlet. I don't know. I think everyone's journey is unique, but yeah, I think initially there was no pressure. So it was sort of like things happened really organically and easily. And now I think I just, it holds a little bit more weight. And so there's more at stake, which is with anything. It's like the deeper you get into a relationship, the more that's at stake. And like, it's so easy in the beginning because like you're just floating around, and then,
so true.
So yeah, anything when the stakes get higher, it obviously gets harder. And yeah, I mean, I think last year I had to do a lot of work with detaching, my ego from it and detaching this sense of identity from it. And I'm thankful that I was able to sort of like process through those things and really learn those lessons now.
You mean like logistically separating yourself from like the Instagram account? Or do you mean like feeling like you're one with, well, a combination of the two? Because people do different things with like for marketing themselves, because you have some bloggers who have like they themselves have whatever 500,000 million followers, and then some of them have their product or their company which has all the followers and they don't, because they literally keep themselves separate from it. So that's why I ask, like logistically or even an emotional kind of, okay, this is a company.
Yeah.
I'm still me regardless of where the company goes.
Totally. I think a little bit of both. I think I try and keep my private life a little bit like private. And like, I'm not talking about like my boyfriend or anything on Fit for Broadway. I will say, unless it's like directly related. He's in fitness, so occasionally he makes a cameo.
There you go.
But I'm like not. I try and focus more on like the community aspects of Fit for Broadway and who it's serving, and but I think probably to answer your question fully, it's more on an emotional level, and it's just detaching from this idea of like that's my worth, and that like that's my whole identity, and that it's hard. I mean, because there's been moments where it's plateaued and it feels, stagnant when that happens, because you're like, there's no momentum. So it must mean that like, I'm not doing the right thing, or, and like, there's going to be moments when like, it feels like the wheels are turning and you're moving forward. And then there's going to be moments where it feels like you're hitting that plateau. But, I think so long as your intention is there and you're showing up in the right ways, it's always going to be leading you in the right direction.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I want to turn gears a little bit here.
Yeah, of course.
So you worked in your sister's shop for a period of time.
Yeah.
And there were some invaluable lessons that you learned.
Yes.
Maybe. Could be misquoting.
Yes.
What were they? What were some of them? What are like some of the standout ones that came to mind? Or come to mind?
Oh, I just miss those days so much.
Why?
So I just love my sister. She takes care of me better than anyone. We just had such a fun life. We lived in New Orleans. I lived with her and her husband. We just had this little fun thing. We had this little home, and we would wake up and we would go into her shop, and we would get lunch every day, and it was just like life was simple. And she had a graphic design store in New Orleans called Tupelo Honey. She's moved to Texas since and still has it. But she focuses mostly on wedding invitations and event invitations, and so it's a lot of just like labor, cutting, pasting. Like she conceptualizes what it's supposed to be, and then we would work together to sort of actually make the physical thing, which was a wedding invitation or something like that. So she got her undergraduate degree in graphic design. So, at the time I was learning all of these graphic design tools and also just fine tuning my eye for design. And at the time I was like, I'm just working part-time for my sister and filling this gap year essentially that I created for myself. And it didn't, I had no idea these things would come back to serve me. And then when I started working on the blog, it was like, oh, I have all this knowledge of design that I had no idea that I was going to ever use. And, I see things differently now because of working with her.
Like things as in like logos or?
Yeah. Her and my cousin my cousin and his wife as well are all graphic designers. And so I feel like I've been able to learn a lot from them about anything from logos to just visually how something should look to, packaging something, which has served me well with, the apparel and how I package it and the way it looks and the way a customer receives the product and things like that. 'Cause it's, you really have to go that deep into something for it to like be a great experience for the customer on any level, whether it's digitally or a tangible product. And so I think I learned a lot from them about that. And then, on like a super emotional level, it was just like a really fun work environment. And, we just really, she supported me a lot and gave me room to grow in the way that I needed. And I felt really supported and loved working for her, and it was fun to work with family, and it was such a good year.
Wow. Yeah, that's so interesting. There's so many things you don't realize go into having your own business.
Yeah.
Especially if you're selling product or something. It's like there's so many little things that go into making it stand out. And someone that comes to mind is what's his name? Derek Sivers. He created CD Baby.
Yeah.
He had, I don't know if you've ever seen his email. It's kind of legendary, where it's like, your package was taken off the shelf with white gloves. The whole community threw a fanfare for it. You are the customer of the month. We are terribly exhausted. Can't wait for you to buy another CD or whatever.
Amazing.
But it put that in every single box with these CDs that he was selling. It's
That's
just
so fun.
But it's so funny because you don't realize how much that means to someone that feel. I mean, I guess I realize how I feel when my package comes from Amazon Prime. I'm like, you do a party dance. I get so excited. So that's really great. That's really great. Being unapologetically authentic. Is there something that comes to mind or a piece of advice that you would give someone on that?
Being unapologetically authentic. I think you just have to figure out what you want to say to anyone and like what you stand for, and what you have to offer, and not being afraid in the areas that you don't know, or that
admitting that you don't know something.
Admitting that you don't know. I don't know a lot of things. So
not yes to you not knowing a lot of things, but yes to that. It's like,
you can yes to me not knowing a lot of things. That's totally fine. So yeah, I think those things. I think it's the phrase like not comparing yourself to people comes to mind when I hear that. I think that so often you admire people and you want to be like other people, and that's great to be inspired by someone, but ultimately like there can only be one of them and one of you. And so I think figuring out the things that make you super unique and playing those things up, so often you play them down because you want to fit in growing up. But I think like having these things that make you unique, which again is not just your great skills, but it's also the things that you lack. Like that's a part of what makes up who you are. And so, yeah, I would say those things.
How do you find the balance between letting things happen and making things happen?
I was listening to this podcast yesterday, and she said something that actually I really resonated with, but don't practice yet. But I thought I want to practice that. But she said she meditates a lot. And she said for every, hour or 10 minutes or whatever that she meditates, she makes an agreement with herself that she has to put something into action. So for every sort of moment that she's quiet and she allows herself to receive and sort of just be calm, she also wants that to be a moment of, or to be complemented by a moment of action, and or by rather a decision of action. And so I thought that was really neat, of just like balancing between like taking time for yourself to be quiet and then like putting things into movement. So to circle back to your question, making things happen versus letting them happen.
Things happen.
Yeah, I think it's that balance of like getting quiet to hear things, and then also just being a responsible adult.
Yeah.
No one wants to do taxes, but we all got to do taxes
every year.
But I don't know, reward yourself with something. Tell yourself you're going to sit down and do the thing that you don't want to do, and then like reward yourself.
You're actually bringing up a good point. You might have already answered the question, but I'll ask it anyway.
Yeah.
How do you find the balance between like getting your professional work done and having that personal time for yourself?
I'm learning that now.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. For 3 years, I was not in a relationship. I was building Fit For Broadway. It was my sole focus, my everything. And I was, for the most part, pretty absorbed in that and absorbed in my own life and just the decisions that I wanted to make. And I think in this last year, I have had to take care of other people, whether that means because like we're doing a project together or because now I'm in a relationship. And so it's, a balance of like, you can't just exhaust everything and then not have anything left for those people who are, your
loved ones,
or people that you're working with, or, and then they will also be the people who support you and fill you back up. And, so I think just, this year, funny enough, I think always because I can make my own schedule, I was always like, I'll work weekends and I'll work nights and I'll work whenever. And I used to do that. And then I think since I got into a relationship, there's this rhythm of like, it feels nice to have a 9-to-5 work schedule, or, in New York, like 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. work schedule, 9 p.m. whatever.
It goes later and later
for everyone. But to have that day schedule and then to like put it away and have dinner with that person, and then to have a true Saturday or Sunday off where you just don't think about work. And so I think I'm shifting into more of a traditional schedule, whereas like I used to not at all.
Do you get all your work done at home, or do you make yourself go to like a coffee shop?
I used to go to coffee shops a lot, and then you spend so much money, and it's like kind of annoying to drag all your stuff there. And so a lot of the work that I do is at home now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try and, I would love to eventually have an office where I can go and that's like my designated workspace and I can leave it there. But for now I have my desk set up with all my things. And
do you have a standing desk? Or do you sit?
No, I have
I'm just curious. No, because sometimes they're like trending on.
Yeah. Well, there's this like treadmill desk that's trending, which I think looks fascinating.
It does. Keeps you nice and healthy. Well, okay, so then leading towards like daily routine, daily rituals. For instance, when you're getting ready for work or you're going to work, there is that formality of like, you know, when you go to the office, you get dressed and you go to the office. Do you do that at home, or how do you keep the formality of getting work done in your kitchen?
No rules, no formality.
No holds barred.
Yeah.
Just get up and do it.
If I can, I like to start my day with a workout. My mind works better. My emotions are more in check. I feel like it just stimulates me first thing in the morning, and I'm on my way.
Do you have a go-to workout?
I do. Lately, and you know, for the past 4 years, I've been in and out of it, but it's always sort of my point that I come back to is Core Rhythm Fitness. Roderick Covington founded this company. He's also a performer. He's in Once on This Island, and he just is such a motivational person, and he's a great leader, and he is an amazing mentor. And so I feel like when I go, I don't just get a physical workout. It feels like I am emotionally and spiritually supported, and it's really helpful for me. It's a game changer for me when I start my day with them. And so I try and start with a workout. I start every day with that matcha shake that I told you about.
Yeah. Can you repeat those ingredients again?
So we did a sound check with the matcha shake. So
We
we'll
did.
repeat the
matcha shake
ingredients.
sound
So
check.
I do a 1/4 of a cup of cashews, raw cashews, a tablespoon of cacao, a teaspoon of matcha, a teaspoon of reishi, cinnamon, 1 date, and hot water. And I blend it with a NutriBullet, and it just makes like essentially a matcha milkshake.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And matcha has caffeine in it.
Matcha has caffeine. Yep.
Do you do coffee, or is matcha your...
I try and not do coffee.
Why?
Because coffee makes me really anxious, but I love it. I mean, my dad roasts coffee. It's like very much in our family.
You roast coffee?
It's his hobby. So he makes amazing coffee. I love Birch. Shout out Birch. Love their coffee so much. I just find I'm much more anxious when I'm drinking coffee. Like if I start
Same.
my day with coffee, I'm just a jitterbug. Whereas when I start my day with matcha, my brain is awake, but I'm like, I'm calm, I'm okay. But I'll have a coffee in the afternoon sometimes. So I have that matcha shake, start my day with a workout. I don't get ready unless I have to like go out. That's just, I mean,
Truth be told.
it's just as time consuming. Like I'm not going to spend time getting ready when I'm going to be home all day. So, and you know, it's good not to have makeup on my face and let my hair rest from any products or anything on it. Yeah. So when I'm at home, I'm just usually comfortable. But I mean, a lot of my time is spent connecting with people not at home. So I'm running errands and like having meetings with people that I'm featuring or that I'm collaborating with or stuff like this. And so,
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Oh, hey, of course, darling, of course. Now, I had read another thing about jump rope. You travel with a jump rope, or you did travel with a jump rope, or...
I love a jump rope. I love it.
They're great.
They're great.
What do you do with the jump rope besides jump it?
Jump the rope.
Like for 10 minutes, half hour, different types of
When I travel,
technique?
I travel with a few things. I travel with a jump rope because it's light. I travel with they're called booty bands, but it's like essentially looks like a round band that you put around your legs or your
it's like
ankles.
an inch wide.
Yes.
Resistance.
It's a resistance band. Yes. I travel with one of those, and then I sometimes travel with ankle weights, but those are heavy. And so just a few different resistance bands because they don't take up any room and they're great. And then jumping rope I do for my cardio, and then the bands I do for like resistance training. And
That's great because it's so
Yeah.
difficult when you're traveling to get that gym time.
Totally. Yes,
Or
it is.
especially when you have 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. workday. Like, when am I going to sweat?
Yes,
When am I gonna
totally.
exercise.
Yes.
So, another one for you. Another question is all questions. What self-limiting belief or thought did you give up that opened you to success?
Self-limiting belief or thought. I think that I didn't have the capacity to be a leader. Like, I think I always thought of myself as a creative and didn't quite know how to be a leader. And I mean it specifically in the sense of, leading a community is different than leading like a team on a project. And I'm speaking more into like leading a team for a project. And I'm super grateful that the people that I brought on for projects are, my best friends. And I did a podcast. We did a podcast for Fit For Broadway called The B-Way last year. And I brought on my best friend Cassie as my co-host and my best friend Justin as he was our sound engineer. So Justin Ramos and Cassie Silva. And shout out you guys. I love you. And it was really hard to understand how to manage that project with two other people who, are incredibly talented and very creative. And, it wasn't like having an assistant where I was just like, oh, can you do this little thing? It was like, I wanted them on as in a really big way. And, we all had to be working together for that thing to function. And so I think, thinking that I didn't have the capacity to grow into that role, and then realizing through their support that I could grow into that role and did grow into that role, and then now have a much better understanding of how to lead a group of people doing a project, or, how to understand how to navigate that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you need any clarity on that?
No. That makes sense. Yes, I guess both. Yes, it makes sense and more clarity as well.
Sure.
So like delegating jobs,
delegating tasks,
like, hey guys,
managing people, being really aware of everyone's feelings, intentions, skills, and then putting those into play together. It was really tough, and I'm just grateful that I had them on for it.
What became challenging about that? Like,
well, I think with them it was tough because like they're my best friends, and then we were doing a project together, and which was the greatest gift because, they were constantly holding space for me, and I was, coming into this new role as sort of like managing this big project that we were doing, and it was an area that I knew nothing about at the time, and so just kind of learning all these new things together.
Yeah, that makes much more sense.
Okay, yeah. It was just challenging to understand how to.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a project we'd never done, and I'd never brought on people in that capacity, and so it was just kind of figuring out how to do that. And they were incredibly supportive and completely held the space for me to step into that role. And so, I think we brought out the best of each other in that experience, which was great.
Yeah, that's incredible. Because it's so funny. And I've been in those situations before. You have like your friends, and you're like, okay, we're friends, but now I have to put on my leadership hat. Okay. All right, everyone. It's
right.
like someone different, but you're not someone different.
Yeah.
So to find that balance is challenging.
Right.
Do you have most gifted books, or books that have changed your life, or books you've gifted the most?
I like The Untethered Soul a lot. It's I don't know his first name, but the last name is Singer. And it's about sort of just the little voice in your head and what it's telling you, and how to have a relationship with it, how to kind of get deeper into your intuition. It's a great one. I love a book called The Prophet.
Is that nonfiction? Fiction?
Nonfiction. Well, it's like these guys. This guy. It's like these old passages about different themes. So he goes through all these different themes of like love, and I mean it was a real person who wrote this book, so it's his beliefs on different themes.
Got it.
So it's like there's love, and then there's marriage, and then there's children, and it's sort of this like very poetic, spiritual passages about each of these themes, and they're just really beautiful. They're like, it's just like poetry about these themes, but I mean it's just put into words in a way that I've never heard. And so, I love that. what are some other books that are really good?
There's so many. It's hard to.
I know.
There's so many.
I really loved War of Art, the War of Art.
Okay, yeah.
We read that in our book club, Broadway Book Club. Shout out.
There it is.
You can be a part of Broadway Book Club, all of you, by emailing community@fitforbroadway.com. Shameless plug.
Plug it. Plug it.
So that was a really good book that we read. Those are what I got for you right now.
That's great. How about documentaries? Have you seen any lately, or movies? Because I just saw like 3 billboards outside of Ebbing. And I was like, oh my God.
I haven't seen it yet, but I heard it's amazing.
Okay, I won't say anything else about it.
Okay.
Except see it.
Okay, I can't
But
wait.
do you have any?
I mean,
documentaries or movies?
Black Panther was
Oh my God.
just next level.
I saw that last week. Oh, I should have seen it sooner. I saw it last week.
So amazing.
Not last week from when this episode comes out. Just an FYI for the people listening. Okay.
That was incredible, and I just thought everyone's dialogue around it was really beautiful, and just this, I would see. It was really incrable.
It's so incredible. It's almost hard to articulate.
Yeah.
How incredible.
It was really, really great. So that was beautiful. Other documentaries. I can't think of any right now.
That's fine.
If any come to me, we'll circle back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whichever. Do you have a favorite failure or a parent failure that maybe set you up for success?
Probably like every audition that I didn't
Hello.
get.
Okay.
I mean, I just remember certain auditions where I remember this one specific audition where I would have been working, I think in Aspen, I want to say, Colorado, maybe Denver. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I remember planning my whole next 2 years around going to this theater, living there. I wanted to live there that summer, like all these things, and I didn't get that. And I think after that I got my yoga teacher training certification in the city, and I, shortly after that started the blog, and I just think like, oh, thank goodness I didn't get what I wanted.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank God for unanswered prayers.
Right? Oh my gosh, 100%. I love that saying.
Oh my goodness. That's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
really good one. I mean, yes, it's a good one. Well, it's funny because when you say it's like that's a good one, but then it sounds like, oh, that was a really good failure. But it was, because
a good failure.
we wouldn't have all that is Fit for Broadway. So
Oh.
thank you for doing it, by the way.
Oh.
Seriously, because I was in college too, and I was amazed that fitness was not more of the curriculum.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, particularly in performing live, how fit you need to be. Just not in like a good looking shape, but like able to sing and run or do jumps or all of that. So thank you. Best, most worthwhile investment, be it skill set, money, time.
Contracts. I have a lawyer who writes a contract for everything that I do, and it's really annoying and expensive and so worth it. Because it's just gives clarity to everyone who's involved in the project about what's going on, what the expectations are, what the objectives are. It's a reference point for every question that could come up mostly. So, yeah, I mean, it's really annoying and it's expensive, but I would say contracts are one of the best things that I've invested in.
Yeah, that saves a lot of time.
And the trademark.
Oh, yeah? Huh, yeah. Well, yeah, I guess if other people want Fit for Broadway.
Yeah.
You're talking about specifically Fit for Broadway.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course. Do you hear or have you heard a common piece of incorrect advice in your field of expertise, be it being an entrepreneur, being a female entrepreneur, fitness?
I think there was a gym founded by 2 women, and I had coffee with one of them, and she said, don't ever take investors, or don't take investments. Don't work with investors. And I understand that, because I mean, to an extent, but I just think like you wouldn't have the gym that you have unless you had taken these investors. So
yeah.
I thought that was kind of weird advice. Maybe that's accurate to her experience, but I don't think a blanket statement of like, don't have investors works for everyone. So I thought that was weird advice. I'm trying to think of anything else. That would be my one thing that stands out.
No, that's, yeah. Yeah. I wonder, they must have been screwed over in some way.
Totally.
But
And I've heard stories of people obviously who have engaged with the wrong investors. And of course that's a lesson. 100%. Don't have investors who don't see your vision or who don't understand your vision or how, the time frame of that working or, whatever it may be. And I've definitely tried to learn as much as I can about that. But just to say, like, don't work with investors is like not super helpful
We
because
wouldn't have Broadway.
Yeah. Right? Totally. So yeah.
That
would be the one piece of advice that, if she's listening ever, that maybe just clarify that, maybe what the lesson was and all of that. So
clarity to that.
Clarity.
So here's another side question here. When you're meeting with investors or when you're meeting with anyone, your gut can really tell you whether or not it's a good or bad idea.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I always look back and I think I knew when I sat down with that person that I didn't feel great about this situation, and I sort of like, oh, it's fine, it will work itself out. But I think you have to be super in tune with those things. Yeah.
What does success mean to you?
I think just like a sense of being proud of what you're putting out, and what you represent. I think.
Have you found your purpose? That's a biggie question.
Working on it. I think I'm working on it. Yeah, I definitely feel now more than ever a responsibility to like see this through and understand like what I'm supposed to do with this thing that has sort of blossomed from just a way for me to connect and express. Like this thing formed around it and this great community formed around it, and I just want to understand what the fullest expression of that could look like.
Do you have a vision of what the fullest expression of that could look like, or like a kind of like a projection, or where you want to go next with it?
Yeah, I think we're currently offering an undergraduate workshop that I'm super passionate about. I think playing into sort of what you were saying, it's like knowing that there is a gap in the understanding of how to physically and mentally prepare for this profession, I think is super important. And so we're offering a workshop that helps introduce those things. And then, from there, I think it's just figuring out what would best serve the community. And I think that does exist. For now, I think I'm specifically talking about New York, because that's our direct community and that's where I live and the space that I can touch and be in. And so I think understanding how, like, what would serve the community best. I'm not quite sure what that looks like yet, but I don't think Fit For Broadway will just stay a digital space, a digital content destination forever.
Yeah. It's amazing when you scratch your own itch, what can come. This whole thing. It's amazing to see you sitting in front of me and to talk about this and to hear your pathway through it, from auditioning and from singing and everything to bring you to this moment, which is just so incredible because you just scratch an itch, and on average, a thought you're having, 10 other people are having. That's just a statistic. And it's so true.
Yeah.
Because, it just happens that you have thousands that feel the same way, which is so cool. So when you lose focus, how do you get back on track? Is there like a phrase you're repeating to yourself, or do you meditate?
I do meditate. I think it goes back this is the reoccurring theme, but just to get
Love
quiet
those.
with yourself.
Okay.
I think something that I need to do more often is to like take time away and like take time for myself. And I do really well processing and spending time by myself. I think that's when sort of everything downloads, and then I can come back in and sort of like exert energy. But I think that I really do well when I take that time for myself.
What's your meditation? Is it like, do you sit down for an hour?
No,
Or
I
do you do 10
do.
minutes, or-
I do a lot of guided meditations. I find that works better for
Which
me.
app?
Everything,
All of them?
anything. I
Okay.
mean, like I will just YouTube guided meditations,
Yeah.
or I use Spotify's meditation genre. I've done Headspace, I've done Inkscape, but I just usually bounce around YouTube and find like interesting people doing meditations. And there's these like night meditations that I do. That's this like Australian man speaking this like really monotone, hilarious voice. Like who knows what he's saying 45 minutes into it, because I'm passed out and
Dead
like
asleep.
yeah. My boyfriend and I have this joke that like 30 minutes in, he's just like Doritos, da 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 da, like saying all
You have
this
no
like
idea.
weird stuff, and we're just like passed out.
I feel like I'm in such a zen place.
Yeah.
Doritos.
Yeah. But in the beginning, he's saying all nice things, so it doesn't matter.
Is there anything you believe that others may think are insane?
I don't know. That others people think are insane. I mean, maybe that they don't agree with, but I don't know that anything I'm thinking others would think are insane. Maybe. I don't think anything's random.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think everything's
Coincidences, I think not.
totally. I think everything, and I think the power of manifestation is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been times where I'm walking the city and I'm thinking about somebody and they turn a corner. And it's like, it's not like I'm in their neighborhood, or it's not like they're a good friend, or it's like, it's a very random thought. And then this person just appears before my eyes. And it's,
Wow.
I mean, I think like our ability to manifest everything that happens for us is, I just think most of the time we're so distracted that we can't do it intentionally.
Do you have a recent coincidence that comes to mind, like a favorite one?
I can't think of one right now.
That's fine. How do you view happiness?
Without stress.
The truth. Truer words.
I just think
Yeah.
happiness is a feeling. I equate happiness with like a feeling of safety and comfort.
Is happiness a choice?
Yes, it is. Sometimes I would like it not to be, but it is.
Just thrust upon you.
I wish that like, I mean, because sometimes I think when I'm not happy, I think like I'm not choosing to be unhappy, but I think I am. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we always have the choice to be happy or to figure out how to get out of the mud. But like being in that sometimes is easier than pulling yourself out of it. So,
Sometimes so easier said than done.
right.
Oh, Lord.
But you guys, happiness is a choice. You can be happy.
It is. It really She's getting riled up. No.
You guys,
It
you
is.
guys.
Yes. It is literally is a choice. Do you have a favorite quote or one quote if you could put on a billboard for millions to see? Is there a quote, a phrase that comes to mind?
I don't think this is a quote or a phrase, but like I love the idea of something that says it was all meant. Like I love the word meant. Like it was meant. It was all meant to be. Everything was meant. Just like trusting that it was, that what's happening to you is meant for the higher good. So long as you're staying in your integrity and you're showing up in the way that you should. It's whatever's happening is meant.
I love that. What a great... Yeah, I don't even know what you call that, a phrase? Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Jane, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Of course. Now, how can we find you? All the shameless plugs and go.
Oh, yay. Okay. So you can engage with Fit For Broadway on the digital website. Interwebs at fitforbroadway.com. Instagram is probably our biggest social hub at Fit For Broadway, FOR. And we have clubs and events regularly. You can find out more information about those by emailing community@fitforbroadway.com. We have apparel at fitforbroadwayapparel.com. We're coming out with so many new fun designs at the beginning of April, and I'm so pumped about them. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And if you are in an undergraduate performing program and would like Fit For Broadway to come to your school, email admin@fitforbroadway.com. I feel like that's all the plugs. My personal Instagram is Jane Jourdan.
Jane Jourdan. Follow Jane Jourdan.
That's it. It's much less interesting than Fit For Broadway.
Oh my goodness. So is there another event coming up soon?
I think that there will be a few events at the end of March. But I'm starting to teach yoga weekly at Core Rhythm Fitness, actually, starting on the 22nd.
What is it? Core Rhythm Fitness?
CoreRhythmFitness.net is where you would sign up. But I'm teaching yoga there weekly starting the 22nd. So that's a fun way to hang. And then there will be some events at the end of this month. And then hopefully a workshop in the summer in the city.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for creating this.
Thank you for bringing light to it.
I mean, hey, of course. It's so great to hear your story and to hear your insight and your slice of life.
Thank you.
And I'm so excited to see where you continue to go.
Thanks.
It's really exciting. So thank you.
If y'all are enjoying the podcast, check me out on Instagram at _entertainmentx_. And if you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, please rate and review it. I love feedback. Have a great day.